In a Michigan township of 7,000 people, a New York developer's 522-acre data center is about to face something the industry fears more than any regulator: a public vote. Across the country, courtrooms, county councils, and half-trillion-dollar mega deals are colliding over who really controls America's AI build-out. And the answer may come down to a handful of small-town ballots. In Augusta Township, Michigan, population about 7,000, residents have forced a 522-acre data center rezoning onto the ballot. And the vote is just days away. New York real estate giant Thor Equities wants to convert 7 agricultural parcels into a general industrial campus, a plan the township board approved unanimously. But nearly 1,000 residents signed petitions to trigger an August 4th referendum that could veto the rezoning outright. And opponents didn't stop there. They've launched recall campaigns against the entire board of trustees, plus the clerk, treasurer, and supervisor. At a tense final meeting before the vote, one resident bluntly told officials to stay off social media. If the referendum succeeds, it becomes a national template: data centers killed not by regulators, but at the ballot box. That kind of local revolt is now being tested in a California courtroom. The developer behind what would be California's largest data center, a nearly 1 million square foot complex in the Imperial Valley, stood before a Superior Court judge on Tuesday, arguing Imperial County broke the law when it froze all data center projects. Attorney Sebastian Rucci told the court that an emergency moratorium requires an actual emergency, an immediate threat to public health or safety, and insisted his client's project poses none. The judge pressed the county on exactly that point, questioning whether officials had identified a sufficient emergency at all. If this moratorium falls, similar freezes adopted by counties across the country could suddenly look legally fragile. And developers everywhere are watching this case very closely. While developers fight moratoriums in court, one of the wealthiest counties in America just passed one anyway: Montgomery County, Maryland, home to more than 1 million people just outside Washington, D.C., voted unanimously to ban new data center permits for the next 18 months. The bill merged dueling proposals from council members Evan Glass and Will Jawando, who had wanted pauses of 6 months and 2 years. And the council went further, approving zoning amendments that block any data center larger than 25 megawatts, effectively walling the county off from hyperscale development. Because the measure went through full public hearings, officials believe it will be far harder to overturn than the county executive's earlier emergency order, which one developer, Atmosphere Data Centers, is already contesting. Yet even as local governments slam the brakes, the industry is quietly assembling the largest data center project in human history. Nvidia is in talks to guarantee up to $250 billion so OpenAI can lease computing from a 10-gigawatt hub planned at a former uranium enrichment site in Piketon, Ohio. The SoftBank-led development could exceed $500 billion in total cost, making it the world's largest data center by power capacity. The site sits on federally owned land, with power arrangements controlled by Washington and $33 billion pledged by Japan. As part of a tariff agreement, OpenAI is separately discussing chip purchases from Nvidia worth up to $350 billion. Negotiations are early and could still collapse, but the sheer scale tells you exactly where this race is headed. A project that size lands in a state where families are already asking who pays for all this power. A new analysis from the Natural Resources Defense Council projects the average Ohio household will pay about $70 more per month on electric bills by 2028, driven largely by data center growth. The warning signs are stacking up. A regional capacity auction cleared 833% higher than the prior period. A spike driven primarily by data center load. And an April transmission rate increase already added nearly $8 a month to the average. AEP Ohio bill. Utilities have adopted special data center tariffs that force the facilities to cover 85% of the power they request. But critics say the costs are arriving faster than the protections designed to stop them. And electricity is only half the story. Water tells the other half. In Columbia County, Georgia, Google has been named the sole operator of a planned 8 million square foot data center campus. Governed by what officials call one of the most restrictive water covenants in the country. But environmental experts say even that may not be enough. Researcher Michael Murray, who studies water impacts from data centers, warns that any time groundwater is drawn, there's a real question of how extensively it's being withdrawn, especially with multiple facilities tapping the same limited aquifer as drought pushes levels lower. County officials, Georgia Power, and Google have announced new development standards and restrictions for future projects. Still, residents remain uneasy about exactly how much 8 million square feet of computing will ultimately drink. Despite all of that resistance, construction isn't just continuing, it's setting records. Year-to-date data center construction spending in 2026 is running at 4 times last year's all-time record, with 116 projects breaking ground in the first half of the year. 23 in June alone. Microsoft just cut the ribbon on a $3.3 billion facility in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin, the first building on a campus that has become one of its highest-profile AI developments. The company also broke ground on a billion-dollar expansion in LaPorte, Indiana, complete with the state's first Microsoft Data Center Academy, training local workers for jobs inside the buildings the neighbors keep fighting. Whatever happens at ballot boxes and in courtrooms, the bulldozers are not waiting for permission from anyone. And Wall Street is racing to finance it all. Aligned Data Centers announced the completion of a $1.18 billion asset-backed securitization, its first since 2023, and investor demand was so strong the deal was upsized nearly 30% from its original $905 million target. The financing comes just a week after a $40 billion acquisition of Aligned closed, led by MGX, the AI Infrastructure Partnership, and BlackRock's Global Infrastructure Partners, whose backers immediately committed $5 billion in fresh equity. Institutional money isn't just funding data centers anymore. It's securitizing them, packaging server halls into bonds the way America once packaged mortgages. The capital machine behind the AI build-out is running at full throttle, no matter what the neighbors vote. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, subscribe, leave a like, and drop a comment. It helps us cover more of these stories.